Monday. Welcome to the Ashes to Rubies live stream where we talk about life and recovery and a little bit more.
Good morning, John.
Good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good.
Do you feel like settled, or do you feel like a little unsettled? Are you a little out of sorts? I know that there was an adjustment over the weekend that messes with you for a little while.
Yeah. I feel like falling back, springing forward. Things I've had to learn. Falling back, I love. I love it that I woke up at not 6:30, but I woke up at 7:30.
But is it 7:30 or was it 6:30?
It's so confusing. I think it's a form of playing God. You can't play with time. Although God exists out of time, so I guess we can play with time. It is for us. So and it's incredible that the whole world, except for the Saskatoonians, they don't play by these rules.
There's
are we on real time or fake time? I believe I know the answer. We are on real time right now. This is the real time of life. And prior, we were in fake time. I believe. I don't really understand it. There's a reason. I actually looked it up, and it had to do with farming and lighting and power. And
I actually don't think it has anything to do with farming.
I don't know.
I think that was a myth, but I forget.
What I wanted to talk about, and you said unsettled or uneasy. I love this time of year for two reasons. One, I like the change that's coming. So I don't necessarily like change, but I like this change that's coming. Of like the leaves falling and everything turning green, yellow and purple and
everything is
brown.
dying.
Yeah, everything's dying.
You like the dying.
Where there's death, there's going to be new life. That's just the way it's going to go.
But new life
the clothing, I could wear shorts and a hoodie. I could wear a jacket and pants. You could wear whatever you want. You could wear boots, shoes.
It's such a short season,
but I'm prepared. And then the other thing that I've noticed, you said that I was unsettled. I look at the animals and I feel like God has given us, and we talk about this in LifeLab, where we learn that God's given us these basic instincts. And when I see squirrels at this time of year, I'm like, how do they know all this? They've been digging and burying food for the whole winter. And then the birds, how do they know that? It's like, what's driving them inside of them to be so restless inside that they have to go to Florida?
Not all of them.
Well, wherever they go. I don't know.
Some of them go to Florida. Some of them stay here.
But I'm just saying that migration, it's incredible. It's basic instincts for survival. We have that inside of us too at some level. And then we exaggerate them because we try to get our needs met from the world around us. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful. Welcome, everybody. Good morning, Megan. Good morning for those that are online right now. It is beautiful Monday morning outside in Canada. It is cold. Is it cold yet? It's cool enough.
Definitely cool. You need layers and gloves.
You need a couple
Not all over Canada. You should talk about where we are, but
Ontario, Canada.
Not all of Canada, but yeah, I guess it is getting cooler in all of Canada. Yes.
The perception around the world is that it's always cold here, but it is cold sometimes.
It gets very cold.
I've trained people that have come from Africa, and one guy came in the fall and then winter. He's like, this is hell. I always thought of hell as fire.
Oh, hell is definitely frozen. Hell is for sure frozen.
Frozen over like hell. What's that saying? Hell, when hell freezes over. So no, it's fire. Whatever the perception is, that man, he wore his winter jacket inside the whole winter. I think he went to bed with it. All right, we are going to get into our contemplative meditation, where we take an idea that we read and we kind of unpack it, and then we let God speak to us throughout the day. So here we go. Hold on to your hats. November the 8th. If we could make a clear distinction, I think you're supposed to be reading. If we could make a clear distinction between self-love and love of self. Self-love and love of self. So one middle word, of. It would be a giant step forward in changing my attitude toward the alcoholic. Or life in general, probably. Self-love is the source of hostility and arrogance. The big ego around which everything must revolve. It makes me unable to see any point of view but my own. It is the mark of a mind which is closed to real feeling for others. It is the mark of a mind which is closed to real feeling for others.
Self-love is.
Self-love. Love of self, on the other hand, carries out the commandment. Oh, a commandment. What do you think it is? Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. We can love others and help them only when we are at peace with ourselves. When we appreciate our own dignity and value as human beings, we are better able to have compassion for others. Today's reminder: self-love often wears a mask of false humility behind which we exaggerate our own importance and justify the wrongs we do to others. True humility comes from love of self, which is the realization of ourselves as we really are. Here's a quote by Matthew Arnold. Resolve to be thyself and know that he who finds himself loses his misery. Wow. It's a little complex. Do you have any words? Share. Because I
know one thing for sure. Like, going to the spa every week is not going to help me be a better person.
So that's self-love, self-care.
Yes.
Self-love is different than self-care. So when I hear this, I hear that we have a selfish program. The biblical instructions are selfish. The steps inherently are selfish because it's a selfish program. I got to put on my mask before I help others put on their mask. I understand that. But when we get into this selfish program,
so here's the difference.
It's such a wrong way of looking at it.
If my time, my money, and my resources are all focused on me,
that's self-love.
I'm headed for a world of trouble.
So then, if I can be closer to God and I use all of those resources to love the world around me, I have a love of self because I have a relationship. But I can't love a loving God.
I can't love others until I learn to love myself. If I don't, if I despise myself, if I am full of self-pity and anger, and like if I'm always beating myself up,
you have to do self-care.
I did that and right? Then I'm not loving myself. I'm not respecting myself even. Then how do I pass on a message of love to others?
Because you're just caring for yourself.
I'm super self-focused, right?
So here's an experience that I had. I always thought I knew what love was. I was adopted. I have loving parents. I have you, always loved me, never left me, never forsaken me.
I did.
Until you did, 15 years into the relationship. But needless to say, I always thought I knew what love was. But when I had an experience in early recovery where God filled me with his love, I realized that I never knew what love was. And it was all ulterior motives because I was in self-love, not love of self. So until God filled me with his love, I didn't understand what love was. And so when I have a loving relationship with God, now I can love the world around me. So that's kind of what I get out of this is I understand that we have to care for ourselves, but we've given ourselves, our mind, will, and emotions, our actions to a caring God in step 3.
And I think that when I'm just trying to do this all in my own power, I'm just going to go in circles. I can do it for a little while. I'll run out of steam. I can care for myself well to a certain extent until like something happens, or, I was never able to maintain the consistency on my own strength, on my own power. I needed a power outside of myself, and I needed God's power. And so I actually needed to like turn it so that I was asking God for his power.
So then self-care is more behavioral management, and love of self is really relational of God's love. Is that correct?
And yeah. And I really don't think it's like just love of self is going to do this for you.
I think there's so much into this because
Mhm.
love is such a broad, like, it makes sense in the context that I have a relationship with a loving God, and then he's
Mhm.
filled me with his spirit of love. So
Mhm.
I think here's the reminder. Self-love often wears a mask of false humility behind which we exaggerate our own importance and justify the wrongs we do to others. True
Mhm.
humility comes from love of self, which is a realization of ourselves as we really are.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, because I think being honest about who I am and being honest about my behaviors, that is loving, right? It's not like I'm not trying to hide behind a mask and like skip over maybe some hard stuff.
So we really know who we are. We know what we're prone to do, why we're reacting to the world around us,
Mhm.
and we're able to face the world and admit our wrongs and to go, oh, I was a little bit snappy there. This is why, because I have this little ego that says I'm Captain Recovery, and when you gloss over my great statement of recovery of what you should do, then it hurt me, and part of myself is hurt, and that's like love of self because I know that I am reacting to you. But
Mhm.
then if I'm reacting to the world around me, I just need to like self-care, self-love, and soothe myself so I can
I have
face
a
you
bit of
people the next day.
I have a bit of an example of that. And I think for me, I got a little bit, I really appreciated the messages of body positivity. Um, and I really appreciated that there's kind of this movement away from like, let's just value skinny. Like I don't know if this applies to men as much as it applies to women. I do think there is an effect there too. But for women, there's been this in the last several years, this move towards like body positivity. Just be positive about your body and let's stop shaming each other and stop shaming ourselves, because the media is showing us like you
Mm-hmm.
have to be skinny and glorious and like, so everyone's like attacking Adele because of her size. Well, now she's actually started working out and now they're like people are still attacking her.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I realized like, yeah, I need to learn how to love myself. But then there was a time where I began to realize like, okay, yes, I need to be positive and I need to love myself. But here's this like hard truth, of like, I'm really uncomfortable and my knees hurt. And so I feel like self-love is just like, I'm going to love myself no matter what. But for me, I really needed to like a love of self meant that I became really honest and vulnerable and willing to like actually say, okay, this is, I can't do this of my own strength, and I want to grow and I want to learn and I want to change. And so I brought that into my thinking and I brought it into my physical, and that's why I started working out, right? And so that was like part of like caring for the self that God has given me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this like larger, longer process of not just like put a smile on and tell the world you're fantastic. That's what that false humility, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
put this smile on, tell the world you're fantastic and you're doing great, and like and that we're just trying to like put on this positive message so that we can encourage others. Like that just didn't that just
So
doesn't
then
work for
your
me.
love of self is actually a physical response to getting up, being cheerful,
Mhm.
being positive, doing morning meditations, doing and working out.
Mhm.
Whereas that love, self-love is more about like, I'm going to starve myself. I'm going to look a certain way so that
Mhm.
I'm, yeah.
Or I'm
Wow.
just gonna like starve myself or just
That's heavy
stop
duty.
my feet and say like, no, I'm fantastic just the way that I am, and demand that everybody just accept me the way that I am because I love myself. You better love me too and stop trying to change me.
Ooh. Ow.
It's,
Okay. All
I
right.
think
That's
it's
a good note.
complicated.
It does. So, um, self-love versus love of self. And I think
You
God's
can't.
love will give us the understanding of who we really are, and we can be loving to the world around us. So we leave you with that. Have a great Monday morning, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care. Keep the peace and be of good behavior, and wash your hands.